5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to a somewhat later edition of Full Course Yellow. Just got back in about 20 minutes or so ago from Winton Motor Raceway for the Supercar Test Day. We'll have some stuff from that. We'll hear from Todd Hazelwood, sort of the man of the hour, who's replacing the man of the hour, Brody Kostecki. So we'll find out more about that. We'll follow up on what we found out today, which really wasn't much, but it's probably safe to say that there is a bit of turmoil within the ranks, which seems to have gone on. The drivers are very much solidly behind Brody, and some of the teams are very much against what's happening there, whatever it is happening. But anyway, it was a good day out at Winton for the test. They had quite a big crowd turn up, which once again showed the popularity of supercars. I mean, Wednesday work day, and I don't know, it's probably around 1,000 people there, I suppose, over the course of the day. So that wasn't too bad. Weather was good, and everybody got out and did lots of laps. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Joining us on the program, as you can see, once again, Mark Jones is with us, as in fact is Peter Johnson and Dave Stillwell as well. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we today?
All right, Brett, how are you?
Not too bad. As I said, just coming back. It took me nearly 4.5 hours to get home from Winton. So I'm absolutely. I haven't unpacked the car. I haven't got any of the footage that I shot today. I haven't done anything at all. I just basically walked straight in here, grabbed something to drink, turned the light on, fired up. So as you'll see, there's no news ticker on the bottom today. Just haven't had time to do that. But as I said, we do have some stuff from Todd Hazelwood.
Well, the way the news cycle's working at the moment, Brett, by the time the ticker gets from one side of the screen to the other, it's out of date.
Very, very much so. I think last week when we were on, we finished. We said, not much happening in the world of Formula One. Goodbye. And within about 25 minutes of us going off the air or something, it's like Hamilton to Ferrari. It was really okay. So we'll talk about that as well. If I can just get this shoulder to work over here, let's pack up, go up here, and yes, Roy was there. They're getting some video. He'll have some video up on his channel on Motorsport Archives on YouTube. And he was out there filming today in 4K. So we'll have some really good high resolution footage from the supercars. Well, it was very open. There was no restrictions. Sort of, I wandered down into the paddock area. I thought some say that there would be more security there, but it was very much like a sort of a state round. It was very open. People just wandering in and out of the garages. Most of the drivers were just chatting to people. I thought that Erebus might be really sort of tightly controlled and keeping people out, but they weren't. It was all, once again, it was very open, but no one was saying anything. I mean, the official comment today from everybody was no comment. The unofficial comment we'll get to. We will get there. We will get there later. But
the unofficial comment was "Don't ask."
Yes, well, that was pretty much it. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, and as I sort of said on a bit of an impromptu live stream I did from the RSL club last night, the lawyers are involved, and that's one of the reasons why we're not hearing from Brody. Is apparently the lawyers for the legal team have very much said not to make any comment, because at some stage it will either end up in court, or there'll be some sort of negotiation to settle it out of court, and then the dreaded NDA will come out, the non-disclosure agreement, and so they need to have something that needs to be worth not disclosing. And I mean, if he suddenly comes out and says, well, here's exactly why I'm leaving, it won't. It may not look good for the sport. It may not look good for Erebus, and that's that. The word around today is that may be why the sponsors jumped, is that they're aware of some of the things that went on behind the scenes, which, if it becomes public, might cast both the sport and Erebus in not exactly the best of light. So,
but this is interesting. I mean, in all of the, if we cast our minds back over, say, the last 10 years of the Erebus experiment, it started off with the purchase of Stone Brothers Racing towards the end of 2012. We remember at the end of 2012, Shane Van Gisbergen said he didn't want to be in the sport at the end of that year, and then obviously popped up start of the next year at what was then Techno Autosports, and then of course there was the, shall we say, the standoff at 20 paces in pit lane between the Erebus team and Betty and co in pit lane, staring down the back of the interviews of Shane, having interviews with the television presenters in the garages at Adelaide. Fast forward another couple of years, at the end of 2015.
10-year contract.
well, no, I'm not even up to decade, Dave, yet. Will Davison had a contract to drive with Betty for 2016, and Wills was like, I don't think I'm going to be here, and Betty let him go. We go into the more modern area. The team moved or relocates from Queensland to Victoria, combining forces with its GT team, which of course was the precursor to Erebus Motorsport V8. They switched to Commodores. They switched to using Walkinshaw engines. They've got David Reynolds on board. David Reynolds is there. Anton De Pasquale's there. And Dave signs a record 10-year deal with Erebus in the wake of having, fairly successful seasons in 2017 and 2018. Obviously won the Bathurst 1000 with the team aboard a ZB Commodore with the VF Commodore in 2017. Nearly won the race in 2018. Of course, had that late race cramp, and Luke Yulden had to take over at the end of the race. Signs a 10-year deal with the team. And then at the end of 2020, after we get the Erebus Inside Line documentary, Dave's gone at the end of 2020. He moves to Kelly Racing, which of course becomes Kelly Grove Racing. Anton De Pasquale was either out of contract or close to out of contract at the end of 2020. He got snapped up by DJR Team Story, I should say, at the end of 2020 to replace Scott McLaughlin. And now we're in the situation, 3 seasons later, where halfway through the season we knew that Will Brown was going, and that led to, shall we say, a challenging press conference at Adelaide for the team principal, the team CEO, Barry Ryan. And then end of the season, wins the championship. It's all smiles. There's confetti going around. And here we are, just over 2 months after the Adelaide 500 season-ending event and the season banquet, and Jack LeBrock doesn't know who his full season teammate's going to be. Todd Hazelwood stepping in, at least, from all the reports, for at least the first round at the Bathurst 500, the weekend after the Bathurst 12-hour. And there's no Coca-Cola signage on the cars. There's no Shaw and Partners signage on the cars. There's no SCTR, Southern Cross Truck Rentals signage on the cars. There's a huge amount of rumor swirling around, and I'm not touching any of it with a 10-foot pole, because I've seen what happens in the motorsport media landscape at the moment between people who come out with well-researched and founded articles. They get clapped back at by other members of the media, and it just devolves into a social media and now even a podcast comment firestorm. And I want absolutely none of it.
I don't blame you.
The thing that was on the interesting today, the thing that was on the on the Todd Hazelwood car was the number 1. That's they certainly ran that. They were certainly running that today. That was there was talk that they wouldn't be running, but it was certainly there. But as you say, there wasn't much. It was basically like the old days. It was like the Erebus logo was there. In fact, we've got some footage, and we've also got some stuff from Todd. Supercars released an interview with him. I didn't catch up with him. I didn't catch up with many of the drivers at all. But I spoke to a few people who spoke to Todd, and they said he was very forthcoming. But somebody from Erebus I did speak to did say that the official line is Brodie is sitting out for Bathurst while negotiations continue, and so nothing has been made. But off the record, I think they've basically said that I think they realise he's not coming back, and at this stage, the word is that Todd will definitely be the full-time replacement for the rest of the year, and that's certainly from what I've heard from somebody who spoke to Todd. That's certainly Todd's. That was certainly Todd's understanding of the situation, that he will be the full-time replacement. But let's have a listen to Todd. This is Supercars released this, and it was waiting for me in the inbox when I got home. And this was about all I had time to throw together. But we'll have a listen to hear what he says.
I'm going to step in, obviously, for Brodie and do the best job that I can for the team. Obviously, for me personally, it's an amazing opportunity working with the championship-winning team. And obviously, from my personal point of view, working with Jack as a co-driver initially was planned. So to get the unexpected call-up is, you never expect these things to happen, but certainly ready for the opportunity. And the fortunate thing is I've given myself the best opportunity to get some good preparation before we go to Bathurst. New car shakedown yesterday went really well. And obviously we can get some decent laps under our belt today here at testing before we head to Bathurst. So yeah, bring it on. Yeah, it's been really good. The crew there is absolutely amazing. You can certainly see why they're a championship-winning combination, because everyone gets along really well. They certainly roll up their sleeves and get stuck into the hard work. So it's been really impressive to see that behind-the-scenes element over the last week, spending that time with the team in the workshop, and certainly gives myself a little bit of confidence knowing that the team's doing such a great job, that knowing they're going to have a good car underneath me come race day. Yeah, working with Jack's awesome. Yeah, as I said, the whole idea of moving to Erebus this year was actually to be working with Jack as a co-driver. So yeah, Jack and I get along like a house on fire, to be honest. We're really good mates outside the race car. We're going to try and work together as much as we can and try and help ourselves get up to speed and obviously understand the new philosophy behind these Erebus motorsport cars, and hopefully have a good run at Bathurst.
They're a great bunch of people, and everybody gets along really, really well. So it's all love and friendship there, and obviously Todd's delighted, because it's a lifeline for him. They put in a lot of laps today. Certainly in the time that I was there, they put in lots of laps. The two teams that put in probably the most laps, I think, were the Blanchard team with Jordan Love. He was out a lot, and also the Brad Jones racing team cars. They were also out quite extensively. The interesting thing, we had Cam Waters and Tom Randall for Tickford. They were running around completely free of, you talk about the livery from, the lack of sponsors on the Erebus cars. Both Tom's car and Cam's car were just completely white and black, apart from the number on the windscreen and the driver's name. They were completely devoid of any sign writing at all. So I'm assuming that's because they haven't officially announced their livery for this year yet. So I must say they look pretty good out in the black and white. So we will have some footage. As I said, we shot some footage today. Did do some live stuff. Just couldn't do what I'd planned for. I took the live streaming gear up, and unfortunately, because I don't have a laptop, I couldn't. I thought I might be able to make use of the settings that we used when we went live from Baskerville, but unfortunately that didn't work. So without a laptop, I ended up just sort of strapping the phone to the top of the tripod, to the top of the camera, and just waving that about. So that's on the Facebook page if you want to hear and see some of that. But otherwise, we'll sometime over the next sort of 24 hours, I'll whack up a bit of footage. And as I said, I know that Roy's probably getting stuff together now. I haven't even unpacked the car, so I don't have the camera out of the car at this stage. But anyway, it was an interesting day, and that's supercars. Anybody got anything else they want to say about the wonderful world of supercars before we move on?
I was going to say I've really been appreciating, for those who aren't aware of it, Brad Jones Racing's been putting out a number of video releases, particularly over the off season, where Brad basically did a deep dive into the engine failure of Andre Heimgartner's car at Bathurst. So they did a strip down of the engine at Kenny McNamara with Kenny McNamara from KRE. That was very insightful, particularly as this is the first year we've gone from a decades-old iron block alloy head, race engine to what are effectively modified, off-the-shelf production, Chevy LS, LT blocks and Ford Coyote engines. So that was really great. But what's also been good is that in the last several weeks, particularly after the wind tunnel testing that's been completed in the US, Brad's also done a deep dive on all the modifications that at the very least, the Camaro teams have been having to do. They've got all this existing stockpile of bodywork that they're 3D printing some infill pieces to basically change the shape of. They're adding little extender blocks to the wing profile. They've changed the rear wing end mounts so that the wing sits in a different position. They're only sort of 2 or 3 minutes a piece, but they've been very insightful to this, this constant evolution of the product, particularly in this changeover, between the first season, the second season, particularly with all that data coming in from the testing in the US. What I'm very much looking forward to is some of hopefully we get a Mark Larkham spec where we do a deep dive on all the evolution throughout the course of 2023 and into the 2024 season. Particularly I'm really looking forward to that transient dyno engine testing, where we can finally, basically do what the wind tunnel test has done for Aero. We can do for the, paritizing the power and torque and engine speed delivery between the KRE built Chevy LT engine and the now Dick Johnson Racing engine shop built Ford Coyote Gen 3 engine.
Yeah, they were. It'll be interesting to see how close they were. Of course, there was no official timing today, and I certainly didn't bother running a stopwatch over because, of course, you don't know what they're trying. As I said, there were teams who were going out and doing lots and lots of laps, and there were teams like Tickford who really went out for sort of 4 or 5 laps at a time, put it away, made some changes, came out, did another few laps, put it away. They were trying different things, obviously. Whereas, as I said, you had the people like Blanchard, the Blanchard team, and Brad Jones, who was doing things. But yeah, Brad, those things that Brad's been doing, those YouTube channel bits that he's been doing have been really good. He did them, right through the year, and basically just pulled things and said, okay. Here's the problem. We had problems with our wheel hub. Here's the problem we're having with the wheel hub. Here's how I think we can solve that, or here's how they're planning to solve it. We had fires. What's causing the fires? Well, here's what caused this fire. They've been really good, really insightful, and showed really behind the scenes. They've been fabulous to watch.
I read today that, based on the Queensland testing, Dick Johnson and Ford have been told, can you slow the engines down?
Yeah, I haven't heard. I certainly haven't heard anything. Haven't heard anything official at this stage. So until I saw something from Supercars, because as I said, I mean, we don't get all. I'm on the Supercars media list, but there's a media list and there's a media list, and there are things that you get, like I think sort of we mentioned last week. Someone said that like the media had been basically told to pretty much lay off the Brody Kostecki story, go easy on it. Well, as I said, I if that's happened,
you didn't get that memo, did you?
I did not get the memo, and if I had I would have told them to go jump anyway. But yeah, they certainly didn't send me that memo, and I think that was more for for the A list, and I'm on the B, C, D, or Z list, whatever it is. But I mean, at least we do get stuff like the Todd Hazelwood stuff that they set out today. Interesting enough, keep an eye out. I'm assuming it was V8 Supercars media who were doing it, and Roy will back me up on this one. They had a drone, and the footage we're going to get from that drone is going to be spectacular, because this was a very, very fast drone and a very, very skilled pilot who was getting terrifyingly close to the cars, to the point where it was like, that's literally sort of at one stage coming out onto the old back straight at Winton, out of the second part of the cleavage, as they call it. There was at one stage where the drone was actually between the rear wing of the Jordan Love car, or the roof of the Jordan Love car, and the rear wing, and basically sat in there looking through the back window as he was taking off. It was as Roy's saying, it was faster than the cars from 40 to 150. It was certainly faster than them around the complex there. It was it was buzzing all over the place, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that footage, because it's going to be fantastic, Pete.
Testing was paused for a little while in Queensland because the drone they were using there crashed into the infield.
That's where it was. I mentioned to Roy today that there was some. I thought it was. I knew it was in Queensland, but I thought it was something that. But yeah, I don't know how the rear wing didn't wash it out into a store. It was that close. Well, it might have been in Queensland, that's for sure. But I don't think they had any problems with no problems that I saw today at Winton. But yeah, the footage will be very spectacular. Chad Nayland and the Supercars team, they were running around grabbing interviews in the paddock for Foxtel, of course, and for Seven, and for their own media stuff. So they were running around. I did have the audio gear in there, but it was just sort of so chaotic, and I just I thought, and I was by myself. So I mean, I'm not going to chase people around. So as I said, didn't really talk to anybody, and just was mainly there just to get that stock footage, because you get through the year and you want to do a supercar story, and then you've got to try and find some legally available footage, and it's sometimes not easy. At least now I've got at least for those teams that were there today, I've got some decent footage that I can just drag out and use behind any of the stories. So it was it was a good day out there, but very, very, very long.
On the note of Chad Nayland, before we move off, a quick congratulations to Chad on his work in the Supercars off season. Not only was he part of a great broadcast team covering the Speedway season, both from WA and the Australian titles down in Warrnambool, but he also managed to be made into a far more honest man by marrying the love of his life, his lovely partner. They had a great wedding in Victoria in between the end of the Supercars season and the end of the Speedway season. So congratulations to Chad and his now wife. And of course their children, both the furry varietal and the human varietal. Congratulations. Can't wait to see some of his work, particularly, of course, as we kick off with another Supercars media run event, the Bathurst 12 Hour, in just over a week's time.
Yeah, as Chris is pointing out, Aaron Love, sorry, not Jordan. Yeah, Jordan is, I think, still racing overseas, I think. There's
just so much love in the air right now. There's just so much love.
Everywhere I look around, it's
love is love, but this love is not that love.
No, but it's lovely to see them out there, and certainly Aaron was out. Aaron was out there today, looking lovely.
Well, Jordan's been doing some laps with the Grove boys overseas in their new Mercedes rather than Porsche.
Now there's an off season, or there's a brand switch that we didn't see coming. The Groves in GT world, having been long-time stalwarts of the Stuttgart brand from Porsche, make a change. And they had did they have a 992 GT3R that got written off in the lead up to Dubai?
It was, there was a huge accident. I think it was Stephen at the wheel. and that was quite a large incident at the which race was it? It wasn't the Kuwait race. I think it was technically a 2023 race, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than one of the early season 2024 races. Oh, of course, it would have been the finale of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, which was Abu Dhabi, I think.
Yeah, at Yas Marina.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, the 992 GT3R, of course, was new for the 2023 season. And Porsche apparently was being affected by some logistical challenges, but there appeared to be some ABS calibration issues potentially. A lot of customer teams basically get told, hey, just hold off racing your cars for a bit until we can get you some updated bits. And I think that's kind of, pulled the handbrake, so to speak, on a lot of the Porsche 992 GT3R rollout. Interestingly, we will have, I believe, 3 of them competing at the Bathurst 12 Hour next weekend, and we will also have some 991.2s.
Yeah, and then some incredible drivers. I mean, Manthey Porsche are coming over with an absolute stellar lineup of driving talent.
Yes, if you need to know what time it is, you just need to ask Matt Campbell. He can tell you what the time is.
So we'll be up there. Certainly heading up there. I made the right decision not to drive up as I with the state I was, just driving up to Winton and back. Driving up to Mount Panorama and back would probably not be a good idea. So yes, I'll be. It'll be an interesting trip because I'll be jumping on the train. I have booked the train for it to go from Sydney to, well, it's a train and a coach. Unfortunately, there's only sort of one or two, even though there's a station at Bathurst, there's only a couple of trains that go all the way through. So I'm going from Central to Lithgow, and then from Lithgow to Bathurst, I jump on a bus. So yeah, it's going to be quite the journey to get there, but probably. Certainly, probably safer and certainly less expensive, and hopefully a bit better a bit easier on my failing body.
We do look forward, Brett. I would suggest do a couple of video pieces on the train and cut them together for a little bit of it's a very different Bathurst road trip, or in this case, a Bathurst railroad trip.
Yes, already that's. There, I've got to actually bought some gear for the phone. I'm trying to get do some stuff with the more stuff with the phone. And one of the problems of shooting anything with a phone in Australia is just how bright it is, and so it's very hard to get if you want that cinematic look. It's very hard to get in without a really good neutral density filter. So I got one of those. The other day. Which makes
to put on your phone screen.
Yeah, to put on the lens, front of the lens.
Oh, wow.
And that allows me to open up the aperture and get that shallow depth of field and that more cinema, and also get closer to the ideal ratio, because you want what's called the 180 degree rule. So if you're shooting at say 25 frames a second. You want your shutter speed to be a maximum of 150. You can't do that in Australia because it's just so bright. You've got to crank the shutter speed way up, and that's why you get. And that means, and also the aperture closes down, which means you lose your depth of field. And so anyway, so I've got all that sort of stuff. So I'll have a bit of a play. I'm going to have a bit of a play with that on the way up to Bathurst. So yes, it'll be the rail to Mount Panorama.
Your railroad trip.
The railroad trip, yes.
You have to drop in on the old home ground of the Lithgow Shamrocks and visit the statue of Paging Roy Slavin.
The thing is, I think the layover. There is actually a layover. I think I've got about 45 minutes or so. So the good news is, if it's true of any other Australian country town, the good news is wherever there is a railway station, there is usually a railway hotel fairly close by. So I'll probably end up there for a little while. But yes, as soon as I saw Lithgow, I thought yes, Rampage and the list. Check out the Lithgow Shamrocks and Rampaging.
This must be a reference before my time, because at the moment it's going right over my head.
You're not a Roy and HG aficionado, but yes, Rampaging Roy Slave and the legend of the Lithgow Shamrocks.
Yes.
But anyway, yes.
Now it was interesting. We were all getting in a tiz about all the supercars news, and then Formula One was like, "Hold my Heineken."
Indeed.
Yeah, well, I think
it's still going. There's still more to just a couple hours ago.
Okay, well, I haven't caught up with anything because I just got in. So, Mark and Peter, what's the latest? What's the latest news?
Oh, I hadn't finished reading it because it was so fresh at the time. But the Sauber team is going to be in a little bit of a trouble with their new name.
Yep, because it's online gambling.
Gambling, yeah.
And some countries, including us, don't allow ads for online gambling. So they could be in a bit of trouble with that.
And it's an Australian-based company too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So yes, well they always had, that was always going to be the problem when they announced it. It was always going to be the hassle. So and also it was just a terrible name, but although not as bad as the new name for AlphaTauri, which is
Cash App Bull or something.
Visa
card Bull or something.
But it's pretty. It's pretty awful, but it'll be interesting to see how they rename Sauber. I mean, it'd be good to see them just go back to be Sauber until they get the Audi thing, providing, of course, the Audi thing. Audi is still saying it's going to happen, but
or they just get major backing from a Middle Eastern airline and pay homage to their Sauber heritage and their manufacturer, and then they just call it Saudia.
Well, yeah, I suppose you could do that.
I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And if I recall correctly, there was another prominent Saudi business family who had.
Anyway, so moving on. They operated a very small airline for one day only. Interestingly, I always thought, that the small team in Faenza should go back to being called, or at least we could go with a modern interpretation, a little bit like the artist formerly known as Prince. We could call it the artist formerly known as Minardi, or to pay homage to what Ferrari thought of the small teams, or the late Commendatore. The Garagisti is formerly known as Minardi.
Minardi, yes. So,
yes.
But yes, we did the show last week and sort of said, well, there's at the moment not a lot of Formula One news, and of course, very soon afterwards, the BBC, pops up a headline saying Lewis Hamilton moving to Ferrari in 2025, and it was like, and as I put online, it was like if I'd have seen it from anywhere else, I would have gone, yeah, as if. But the fact that it was from the BBC, you think, well, they don't. They tend not to make up stuff. They're pretty well, and of course, then it was soon confirmed afterwards. Pete, what do you think?
I don't think that's going to go well, unless Ferrari spend this season working on their decisiveness with their strategies, so they don't keep saying, hang on, I'll check, or can we go from A strategy to B strategy to Z strategy? I think, because Lewis, I don't think will put up with that. Also, Lewis likes to be reassured a lot. If you listen to his interaction with his engineer, Pete Boddington, Lewis will often say, "Oh, I think my tyres are going off," or "I think this is happening," and Pete will say, "No, it's fine, Lewis. You're doing well. Just keep going." And I don't think
it's all facade. It's all a facade.
I don't think Ferrari will be like that. I don't think put up with that. Although I read today that Pete Boddington might be following him to Ferrari.
It's
Yeah,
not
I'm sure he will.
terribly.
I'm sure he'll bring people. He'll bring people along, and he might even be able to focus them a bit more as well. Because I mean, he'll come there with that sort of prestige of winning all those titles and all the rest of it. He might be in a position where he can get a few people aside and say, like the way you've been running things, that's not acceptable to me. Here's how you operate now. And that might focus them a little bit, because that's what Ferrari have always needed. They need someone to focus them. Otherwise, they fly off in 100 different directions, and it's all a bit chaotic. But if they've got somebody like a strong leadership, like they had with John Todd, and a strong driver like they had with Schumacher, someone who can focus their attention and say, okay, this is how you do it, and it will certainly improve them a little bit. But it'll be interesting to see like how he goes. Obviously, Charles Leclerc has got. There's a lot of faith in him, and I'm not sure that it's so far it's been entirely justified. I mean, he's had a few good performances, but I just don't think he's been consistent enough. And whether that's the fault of the team or him, I suppose we'll find out when he's up against Lewis.
Well, just remember that Ferrari's been coming off the. They've now moved past that year or two where they had strangely reduced engine performance after definitely not having engines that were not in compliance with the regulations at any point.
That helps.
But the great thing about bringing Lewis on, yes, we don't mention the war or the technical inspections. The interesting thing is that you talk about Ferrari needing more decisiveness in their strategy. That's the great thing. Once you've got Lewis on the team, he can just call the strategy from the cockpit. He's like, I'm not going to pit now. Okay.
Yeah, which he's shown himself to be very capable of. I mean, he's a smart operator, and there's been times when he's gone against Bono and people, and when he said, "No, I'm going to do this," and often he's been proven right. I mean, he's obviously very experienced now, and he will bring that confidence and that experience to Ferrari, and that might help them out a bit. The interesting thing is where Carlos Sainz is going to go now. The story going around is that he will probably end up at the team that's about to be known as Audi, because of the long relationship that company has with his father from the rallying days. And there's talk that they've always been very keen that when they actually do get involved, they really would like young Carlos to be one of their drivers. So,
this is the first time in the most recent memory that I have that the silly season has kicked off before the entire season has begun. Take a step back and just consider for a moment. We have the person who is arguably the most winningest driver in the recent history of the sport. Talk about the experience, the longevity. Went up and declared his intention to race for Ron Dennis, before he was even in his teenage years, moved straight into McLaren, was a Formula One world champion in his second ever season with McLaren, then went on to take a further 6 titles with Mercedes AMG. He's moving out to Ferrari, which is, the last time a multiple world champion, we've seen it before. Ferrari has taken in multiple world champions, and that hasn't worked since Michael Schumacher, because they brought in a two-time champion in Fernando Alonso, and the team was competitive, but it wasn't outright competitive. They brought in a 4-time world champion in Sebastian Vettel, and they were competitive to a point, but they weren't dominant. Is this the move at a period of time, particularly as we are about to go into a new set of regulations for 2020, new set of engine regulations in 2026? Is this going to be the point that, Ferrari sees that Jean Todt, Michael Schumacher, Ross Brawn triumvirate repeated again, where Lewis forms the driver component of that, team manager, technical director, and driver, that they can build a cohesive team around? And while that's all happening over here at Ferrari, Carlos Sainz is a free agent. Rumors continue to swirl about what happens with Sergio Perez and all the Red Bull and all its many names driver pyramid. There's rumors about Alex Albon. How much longer does he spend at Williams? It then becomes who fills the seat at Mercedes. Do they look to their own driver development pyramid? Do they look at some drivers that are coming out of contract? They try to pinch one? And as we've discovered with Oscar Piastri taking the spot of Daniel Ricciardo, even while he had an additional year on his driving contract, contracts don't mean you're going to be driving that car for that team for that period of time. It just means this is the period of time that we're going to pay you money for. Some other team may decide to pay you that money while we put another driver in your seat. So get set for what will be an incredible 24 season on track. But just imagine all the machinations that are going on up and down pit lane in Formula One right now as they try to figure out who's going to drive for who, when. We saw that the second half of the Supercars season go a little bit pear-shaped for Will Brown after he announced that, or it was announced that he was moving to Triple Eight. And whether it's true or not, you certainly could agree with people who might think that some of the energy and the focus switched from the Will Brown car to the Brodie Kostecki car in terms of the development and performance focus. Correct. Could you argue that could this be George Russell's year where he gets, whether intentionally or not, or purely visibly or not, does he get the rub of the green for the strategy calls at Mercedes AMG?
You'd have to think if he was competitive, that the Mercedes would much rather have the guy who's going to be driving for them in 2025 as the champion than the guy who's who might take the championship over to another team if they're in fact capable of winning the championship. I mean, after last year, I mean, who knows? But
never count out the team from Brackley.
And
but further to that, how much faith would you put in Carlos Sainz following team orders this year?
Yeah, well, I think that's...
What are they going to do? Fire me at the end of the year?
Yeah. Pete?
And last year, just getting back to George Russell, last year he started to stamp his authority. He started to say, they'd say, oh, Lewis is faster than you, and things like that. And he'd say, no, I'm not doing it. He really started to put his foot down, so to speak, and say, no, I'm not having that.
Well, the form of your teammate has often been a motivating factor with
first person you got to beat.
Exactly. And, there has been that gradual swing in form at Mercedes away from Lewis towards George. And maybe Lewis has done what many drivers have seen before, like Daniel Ricciardo, for example, looking across at Max Verstappen and thinking, I'm not going to be able to beat him here, or shall I look somewhere else? And this is the place that Lewis has found himself, I strongly suspect.
This is the other thing, of course, is the lure of Ferrari. I know that Alan Jones has always said that his great regret was when he had the opportunity to drive for Ferrari, he knocked it back, and he said that was. If you talk to him now, he said that was my one great regret in my Formula One career was the fact that I had the opportunity to go and drive for Ferrari and I didn't take it up. So I think everybody, and I think Lewis has sort of said that like as a kid he was always a Ferrari fan, and it was always in the back of his mind, one day I would like to drive for Ferrari. So he's got that opportunity now, and he can finish out, he can round out his career. He's also going to be very good. I mean, the fact that they produce such sort of high end road cars as well is going to be
that's not going to be fun at all.
So he'll be involved. I mean, we'll have lots and lots of footage of. No doubt of Lewis, running around the world with various lovely young ladies alongside him in various Ferraris.
I will be I will be interested to see whether Lewis, by virtue of becoming a Ferrari Formula One driver, is able to skip the process that tends to apply for most of the Ferrari special editions, which in order to get access to the latest SF90 or LaFerrari, you have to have been a long-term client and you have to have owned, 5 or 6 of the base models, and you have to have the shooting brake and the Roadster. The good thing about Lewis is that he's got a fairly large garage in his place in Switzerland. He's got multiple residences around Europe. He's got plenty of space to store all of the Ferraris that he would be expected to own to get access to the latest and greatest Formula One limited editions, because that is something that Ferrari is known for doing. Is if they think they can sell 500, they'll make 499.
And of course, at some stage, if he so chooses, and if it is something that interests him, I've certainly heard nothing. But I mean, Ferrari also happen to have a Le Mans winning car as well that they might be looking for drivers for at some stage, and so that's sort of an exciting prospect as well. That would there be a possibility of seeing both Leclerc and Hamilton together in a Ferrari at Le Mans at some stage?
Now, one of the recent Alfa Romeo drivers made a reasonably smooth shift across to the AF Course Le Mans team in Giovinazzi. So,
of course, a Ferrari Academy driver or a Ferrari anointed driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something interesting to note. Sometime later tonight, Alpine are going to launch both their Formula One car and their WEC car at the same time. It's going to be it's not going to be a sort of a separate thing. And I think it's live on their YouTube channel at about midnight tonight. They sent all the details, and they're going to they will have the launch of the Formula One car for this season, but also the WEC
the
car
AF44.
Yeah, so they're going to unveil both of those tonight, and they'll have a package. This is the good thing about Formula One in terms of the professionalism. I've already got stuff. I haven't had time to put it together because of going up to Winton today. But whenever Formula One sort of release a car, they put out so much footage and interviews with drivers, with engineers, with designers, with marketing people. There's lots and lots of studio B-roll, anything they get on the track as well. They're for the limited amount of shooting they're allowed to do. Obviously, without testing, they get the cars on the track, and that's all made available. And I've already got the links for all the Alpine stuff is ready to go. So sometime when I do eventually wake up tomorrow morning, because I had about an hour's sleep last night in the hotel room in Wangaratta. So once I eventually do get up tomorrow at some stage, I'll go through that, and we'll pop that up online at some stage from Alpine. So, but I think you can watch it live at about, I think it's midnight tonight our time. If you go to their YouTube channel, you'll see the link there.
Well, those filming days were golden opportunities, particularly from a footage perspective, because in the dark old age, before the Liberty times, where everything was held, all the F1 footage was held so tightly, it was never released, even for teams to use for any social media activity. Oftentimes, when you would see news reports throughout the course of the season, the footage that would be running in the background as they read the news story would be a single car followed by following a tracking car around Silverstone or Jerez or Barcelona, just cutting laps, just being shown on its testing tires, and more often than not, it was the preceding year's car in the new season delivery with some update bits bolted onto it to make it look new.
And that's still the case. If you have a look, if you do any sort of story on Formula One, you have a look at channels like the Autosport YouTube channel and the Race and a few of those. that's the footage they still use. It's the footage we have to use, because the moment you use anything that comes from a race, it's going to be taken down like that. So that's why you've got to get all that stuff. And as I said, that's really why I went up to certainly couldn't afford either the time or the money to go up to Winton today, but it was really it's really the only way that you can get like a substantial amount of footage, that stock footage that you can use in stories that you're running about supercars, because it's the same deal now. You run, in the old days, like a few years ago, when it was predominantly on 7, supercars would put out a VNR which you could legally use. Last year they put out one for Bathurst. That was the only one that they put out. Everything else you couldn't use, and if you took anything, even though it's entirely legal to run it under the fair dealing constraints of the Australian Copyright Act, it was totally legal, but YouTube couldn't care less about that. If you have content ID, if you pay Google for content ID on your channel, that stuff's being taken down whether you're allowed to use it or not. And you can claim all you like about fair use and all the rest of it. It's like somebody from Formula One media from a few years ago. I sent them off a letter regarding, and sent them sent them off the actual bit of the law which allows the thing in Australia, and I eventually get back an email from them saying, "Do you think we give a damn of what the law says in Australia?" So that's their attitude, and it was
well, if we want to speak about attitudes in Formula One to people's fair use and fair right to conduct their business, there's scuttlebutt and there's conspiracy theorists on the internet that would posit that the only reason that the Lewis Hamilton story was released was so that the news that Liberty Media and Formula One management had decided that whilst the FIA had accepted the Andretti Global Organisation's bid to become the 11th team on the Formula One grid, Formula One management said no. Yes, there's box. Yes, you've got a crate of tinfoil inbound to your inbox as we speak. Box. We talk about the Lewis Hamilton news, superseding the Brodie Kostecki news whilst it continues to boil on. The news about Andretti is so disappointing, but also so painfully obvious that this was going to be the answer. Where Formula One the value of a team has skyrocketed since Liberty Media came in. The growth of the sport, the number of events. Whereas previously you could have picked up a team for well less than $100 to $150 million. Now recently there was that investment group that's partially got Ryan Reynolds in it that took it's like a 24% stake in Alpine, and the amount of the purchase values the team or the brand at close to $1 billion. Now these are all ambit claim numbers, but when you're not dealing with, let's go back 10 or 12 or 13 years ago, where the FIA was trying to get up to 12 teams, and we had We had Marussia, we had HRT, we had Caterham, which was called Lotus, but then it couldn't be called Lotus, it had to be called something else. And we had Manor.
Slightly Malaysian.
And all of those teams are no longer with us. And, you read through the list of, points that Formula One management makes about this application, and it's like, oh, okay, I see what you mean there. But basically what it boils down to is that, the way that the prize money and the revenue stream from the sport is divvied up, the teams would have to divvy that up from 10 people to 11 people. And if the teams weren't getting that, their distribution reduced by, 9 or 10%, it means that the sport itself and the management and the Liberty Media Group wouldn't be getting as big a cut of the revenue of the sport. And what was interesting was the footnote to their release and said, oh, we'd have a different opinion if you were to apply to join in 2028. with another power unit manufacturer, because Andretti's pitch was like, well, we want to come in 2026 when there's new technical regulations, so we start afresh. We want to work as a customer power unit because their planned powertrain partner, GM Cadillac, is not currently producing a Formula One power plant. They do, of course, build or brand an IndyCar engine, the Ilmor engine, that's also assisted by the Penske organization. That's a twin turbo 2.4 liter, 2.4 liter V6 that makes 750, 800 horsepower, runs for several hours. Probably not a bad engineering test bed for a Formula One engine. But, it just smacks of.
And they've got the hybrid half in the WEC car.
Correct. Which, of course, is a spec unit that comes from Bosch. It's staggering how, 10 to 15 years ago, we were desperate for more teams. The Concord Agreement allows for up to 12 teams in pit lane. The requirements of all the circuits that we go to is that there is space for at least 12 teams, plus the safety car and the medical car and the technical garages and things. So there needs to be at least 26 or 27 garages. That's what the Albert Park Formula One pit lane is built for. And they proved it through at Silverstone last year when they had an 11th team as part of the filming for the untitled Brad Pitt starring Formula One film that's brought to us by Apple Films. Looking forward to see that come out hopefully later this year or early next year.
The interesting thing about that was also in terms of, as they've always said, how keen they are to get into the American market. And one of the things I agree with them on some of it. I think I can understand their concern about the power plant at this stage. It's like because General Motors are saying, oh, we're going to be building an engine. We're committed to building an engine, but not quite yet. I can see why they're saying at this stage, you let them in, and then Cadillac sort of wind back their commitment a bit, and they certainly want Formula One want another major manufacturer in as a power supplier, and that's what they'll get with GM and with Cadillac if they go ahead with the building of the engine, especially as they will also have Ford, because that will bring them, that Ford versus GM dynamic in America. What really sort of annoyed me was the fact that, they were just so utterly dismissive of the fact that, the name Andretti really carries no weight at all. Has no, would add no prestige to Formula. It would add. Formula One will add prestige to the brand name of Andretti, but Andretti will bring no prestige to the brand name of Formula One. In America, it will. If Andretti's one of those names, it's like Brock in Australia, or it's like if you ask anybody who has even a casual idea of motorsport in the United States, do you know what sport do you associate the name Andretti? Pretty much, I think everybody would be able to say, yes, it's motor racing.
But I guess the proof will be in the pudding on that. Looking at the time, Brett, should we take a moment to turn our focus to just down the road or just up the road in the case with the upcoming, of course, the opening of the circuit racing season in Victoria this weekend for the Shannon Speed Series?
Yes, that's coming. Yes, coming up this week. The Trans Am looking very interesting, and the interesting thing is the number of supercar drivers that seem to be joining the Trans Am, the TA2 series as well. There's a number of people there, so there's some high profile people there. I think in TCR we've got 15 cars. Also, the opening of no S5000, but instead Tim Macro's Formula Open series will be running, and I think they've got a pretty good field for that as well. And open wheelers at Sandown. It's not the most it's not the smoothest track. You might get a bit of air time down the bottom of the main straight. We've seen a few photos over the years of stiffly sprung Formula 3 cars, getting all four wheels off the.
Getting some of them very well above the deck.
There are cars that are built to smash the curbs, And then there are formula cars. Maybe a Formula Ford without too much aerodynamics underneath the bottom of it, maybe. But all the flat-bottomed, side pod diffuser, front and rear wing element formula cars, they're in for a treat in terms of discovering the benefits of high-quality ride control shock absorbers and how to set their bump stops up across some of those bumps.
And the good news for everybody is, of course, the Stan coverage is no longer, and this will be now seen on the 7 Plus streaming platform, which everybody has. If you've got access to an Apple TV or a Chromecast, or most modern TVs that have got a smart TV, have got Google TV or Android TV built in. You can get 7 Plus, and you'll be able to get pretty much all of the action over the 2 days. We'll be going out probably Saturday and Sunday. Not sure exactly what we're doing yet. I'm still waiting to see what restrictions we're under in terms of what we can and can't film. We've certainly got accreditation. That wasn't a problem, so we will be there. We'll have some stuff. Probably further down the track, because in pit lane coming back very, very quickly, and unfortunately it's just I was saying to someone, I've been trying to find some time to do a few important things, and it was like it's just with the show coming back, it's got chaotic again, which I wasn't planning for it to do, but I've basically got I've got to do a lot of stuff tomorrow, and then I was going to go out to Sandown on Friday. That's not going to happen now because I've got some medical stuff, but that I've simply got to do. But after that, it's pretty much motorsport for the next, at least for the first half of the year. So we'll see how we go about that. We've come to the end of our time, I think. Hopefully, we might come back if I'll discuss it with everybody. But I think the 9 o'clock. Personally, I think the 9 o'clock is a better time. Certainly, a better time slot for me. It was the only time slot I could have done today. That's for sure, because I wasn't in until about 8:20. But yeah, so we'll see what happens next week, and we'll have some news from Sandown, and of course all the latest, whatever breaks on the whatever we find out about the Brody Kostecki thing. I think it'll get solved pretty quickly. I don't think it will. I don't think it will end up in court. That's why nobody's talking at the moment. Is they don't want to telegraph the punches before it ends up in court. But I don't think it'll get that far. I'm sure they're going to come to some sort of agreement, and that will include sort of an NDA, which will hopefully protect the, as far as Erebus are concerned, will protect the reputation of the team and the people who are running it. So anyway, we'll let's wrap it up, guys, because as I said, I really need to go to bed about now. I'm going to unpack the car and fall into bed and hopefully sleep for at least 6 hours. I'd love to sleep for 8 to 10 hours, but that hasn't happened in years. That's probably not going to happen tonight. But we'll see everybody next week, when hopefully I'll be a little bit more awake. And thanks everybody for joining us once again. We really do appreciate it. Remember, In Pit Lane returning on Channel 31 first week of March at the regular time, 9 o'clock Thursday nights as well. And as I've said before, we are still looking for sponsors to help out. We've had the support of Roy and Online Invent for some reason. He's still supporting us, but we really do. It does cost a bit of money to sort of keep this thing on the air. And as I said, I think it's really good value in terms of when you compare what you're getting for the price that we're offering compared with what you get in print media. I mean, as I said, it's less than an eighth of a page in something like Auto Action, and they're going digital now anyway. So we're free to wear televisions, and there's nothing more powerful in terms of marketing. There's still nothing more provenly effective than free to wear primetime television advertising. So give us a call if you're interested in helping us out. You're interested in getting your message across to people, right? Motorsport fans right across Melbourne, right across Australia, on our online services, and also supporting not just what we do in terms of motor racing, but what we do through RMI TV student television, because we've got a whole bunch of new people coming in to help out. That Pete and I and the team will beat into submissions, sort of, and there, but very softly and gently. Okay, everybody. Roy's saying, yeah, good luck. Wish me luck editing until 5 a.m. Yeah, I'm not. As I said, I'm not even starting, Roy. I'm dragging the stuff out of the car. I'm dropping it into the lounge room, and then I'm just going to go straight to bed. Any editing that is done will be done sometime tomorrow. Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on Full Course Yellow. Until then, as I say in the classics,